podcast on. He calls us beautiful people, then tells us who we have on.
All right, everybody. So today I have a really, really cool guest with me. It is somebody that I met in October, I believe it was, at HallowsCon that I did in Oklahoma. He is an American writer. He is also a childhood voice actor. A lot of you guys are going to know, but he's also the author of the book, Everyone's Trash, and it's an award-winning book already. And I am talking about Duncan Watson. He played the voice of Charlie Brown in Be My Valentine, Charlie Brown, and a couple other ones, I believe. But Duncan, how are you doing tonight?
I'm well, thanks. I'm well. And I'm really excited about the first one that you mentioned, Be My Valentine, Charlie Brown. This is actually the 50th anniversary this year. Back 50 years ago when I was all of 12 years old, I was the voice of Charlie Brown on Be My Valentine. Followed that up with two more, each successive year.
Uh-huh.
Because it took about a half a year for them to draw them out. This was old school when back when the animation was done entirely by hand. But I
Right.
did You're a Good Sport, Charlie Brown, which is about Charlie Brown goes to a motocross race, and it turns out, ironically, that we had the good fortune of meeting Charles Schultz's son, Craig. I never met Charles Schultz, but we met Craig a year ago, August.
Oh, cool.
They had invited us out to a San Francisco Giants game it was Peanuts night, and they brought Melanie, the voice of Lucy, and myself out to California, and I got to say play ball in front of the big crowd there. But when I got to talking with Craig Schultz a little bit, because we were we shared a luxury suite with him after the pregame festivities. It was a hell of a weekend, I'll tell you.
That's
But
cool.
we when we got talking with Craig, it turns out that you're a good sport, Charlie Brown is Craig Schultz's favorite Peanut special, because it basically was a roundabout way of telling his own story, because he was a motocross racer back when he was a kid, and a very good one, apparently.
Okay.
And that I found out also at that same time that You're a Good Sport, Charlie Brown won an Emmy Award, which I had not been aware of. So
Oh, wow.
Emmy winning
Yeah.
child actor, or Emmy winning associated or something. I don't know. And then in 1977, 77 came Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown, and it's funny. I just pulled out. I got something over here in my little. I'm turning this into a music room, but I have this poster I'm going to hang up. I think you can see it.
It's
It's the.
actually it's blurred out.
Oh, is it blurred out? Okay, let's try
Yeah.
this. Uh, it's the poster for Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown.
Okay. Okay.
Yep. So I got the original movie poster back from 1977,
That's cool. That's cool.
and I'm gonna hang that up in this room. But pretty soon it'll be the 50th anniversary for that as well.
Wow. Wow. And you were part of another one that was the Happy Anniversary, Charlie Brown, weren't you as
Yeah,
well?
that was a one-off. It was the
Yeah.
25th anniversary special, and ironically, now 50 years later, it's the 75th anniversary of Peanuts, the
Right.
franchise Peanuts, and
Wow.
the 50th of Be My Valentine.
So let's kind of jump into this a little bit. Whenever you first, tried out for this, what was that like? What was the story behind, trying out to get the part of Charlie Brown?
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, so it's funny. I get asked this question a lot, obviously, and
Right.
I enjoy the story because it's kind of like it's a meet cute story in a way. It's
Yeah.
it's got some character, and I do talk a lot about sort of the origin of Peanuts and the frequently asked questions in the book that I wrote, Everyone's Trash. We'll talk about that later, but
Right.
um, my story was I must have been in third grade at the Reed Elementary School in Tiburon, California, where we lived. And I was at recess one day, probably at 11 a.m., and the bell rang to go back to class. And reluctantly, I trotted back towards my class and noticed that outside of another classroom near my class, but not my class, another classroom, there was a long line that had started to form. And
Okay.
that looked a lot more interesting than wherever I was headed. So I just started standing in the line and stood in line until I got to the front. And I still had absolutely no idea, what this line was for. I just knew I was in it. And so I sat down and they said, well, what character would you like to read for? Assuming that I knew what was going on.
Right.
And I was like, I don't know I don't know what you're doing here. So they said, read these couple lines here, and then thank you. So I read a couple lines, was done, and went back to class. Didn't think anything of it. In fact, it was so unremarkable that I had done whatever it was that I had done that I didn't even tell my parents about it.
Oh,
And about 3 weeks later, The producers, well, Bill Melendez and Lee Mendelson were the producers, but Lee Mendelson handled most of the phone call stuff.
Uh-huh.
Contacted my mother at our home, explaining, that they wanted to, bring me in for a second voice test because they had liked my first audition, and my mom was like, "What are you even talking about? I have no idea what's going on here."
You got the wrong
So
kid.
it started to get real then because they offered to pay me $50 to come in, and
Oh wow.
$50, for an 11-year-old,
It's a lot of
in
money.
1973, it's a lot of dough.
Yeah.
It's a lot of dough. So yeah,
Wow.
was happy to take that gig.
So how long was it into the process before you realized, did you already watch Charlie Brown as a kid
Well, sure. I
or
mean, of course. I mean, I read the funnies,
right?
every
Yeah.
day
Oh yeah.
religiously, and
Yeah.
Peanuts was just part of that, and of course I knew them. And in fact, even before I knew much about the Peanuts stuff, I we would get assignments in school where we would be given comic strips with the words blacked out, and we had to come up with our own comic strip,
Okay.
which I thought was super cool. I loved doing that.
Yeah.
And Peanuts was always the one I chose, and it
Yeah.
was usually a baseball theme because it was something near and dear to my heart. But
Right.
yeah, it's I wish that I could say that there was some talent involved with everything that I did, but I just got really lucky. I was in the right place at the right time.
That's cool.
Um, but I am inhabiting it in its own way. I mean, my the parallels of my own life in weird ways, and sort of the story arc of Charlie Brown, they definitely meet up at various points in my life.
So, I mean, you told me that whenever we met before and everything, and we got to talk about this. And, I know that, so you do a lot of different conventions and stuff now. I see you and Melanie post all the time, different places that you're going and stuff. How long have you been doing these conventions now?
Yeah, this will be like I think my third full year of doing it. And pretty much, it's been so enjoyable to do it with Melanie that
Yeah,
I've it's made me want to do more of them. And
right.
and then of course meeting the fans is really it's special. I mean, it's a unique situation, unique gig that I've got myself into, and I really do enjoy this part of whatever this is. But yeah, I mean, I'm Melanie's doing it like full time. That this
Right.
is her thing.
Yeah,
I'm out, maybe 10 to 12 times a year, and that's plenty. I mean, I've got a
yeah,
full-time job,
right.
so I've got to keep at least one toe in reality, and I think I've got 10 things lined up for this year,
Oh,
and
wow.
I'm excited about that because it's the 20th anniversary of Be My Valentine and
Right.
75th of Peanuts. So there's lots of things. There's gonna be a lot of interest, and there's actually a con coming up in Syracuse in March. The
Hmm.
cr- and it's gonna be like a Peanuts reunion. There's gonna be Melanie, Lucy, um, Patrick McGarren, the voice of Snoopy, and Jenny Holzman, the voice of Peppermint Patty's gonna be there as well. So it's sort of like a mini Peanuts reunion coming up.
Oh, that'd be really cool to see.
Yeah, yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So, even doing, like you said, 10 a year, I mean, I've just started doing this myself as well, with going to the different conventions and all that.
Hmm.
Being on the road like that takes a lot out. So having that full-time job and, like you said, having that foot in reality still, it's still it's still rough traveling that much.
Yeah, well, I mean, and it's also, I'm not necessarily traveling to the most glamorous places in the world, but I just, I love, the slices of Americana that I'm getting to see, in this
Right.
on this tour that I'm doing. I mean, it's a unique experience, and by and large, the travel's mostly paid for me, which is a good thing because I wouldn't probably otherwise be able to do it. And there is the opportunity to to interact with people at these shows. And
Yeah.
um I don't know how much longer I'll do it. I mean, it's still fun now.
Right.
But I am, I'm into a 33-year career, working for a public works department in Southwest New Hampshire,
Yeah.
and that time, to be doing that professional work is coming to a close, and I've got some things I want to do. I want to get out there and explore the world a little bit, and that'll be including doing some of the Comic-Con stuff and Charlie Brown stuff, but it'll mostly be personal stuff.
For sure. So what do you like to do in your off time whenever you're just hanging out?
Oh yeah, I mean, I love to play the guitar. I'm not a naturally talented guitar player, so I have to really work at it. And
Yeah.
I've been playing since I was 15 years old, and I've got some beautiful guitars. I've got a beautiful Gibson and a beautiful Strat, um, and I'm I'm okay enough to sound okay, but I really have to work at it. But I'm hoping that I get to play a lot more guitar
Yeah.
as things settle down here. I love to garden. I have a beautiful property in Southwest New Hampshire. I've got about 25 acres and a river that literally runs through my front yard,
Oh,
and it's
cool.
got a naturally deep gorge
Yeah.
that drops about 25 feet from my property down to the water.
Oh,
With
wow.
this like sheer granite face, and you can actually in several parts of it jump off the ledge into a deep swimming hole.
Wow.
And I can't see the lights from my neighbors because they're so far away, and it's very quiet except for the sound of the river.
That's cool.
I spend a lot of time, walking around my woods. I built trails in my woods during COVID. That was my
Yeah.
COVID activity. I spent 2 years building about 2.5 miles of trails in the woods, and now I use them, several times a day walking we have a mini Aussie.
Okay. So how do you do that? Do you just like walk through the woods to build the trails, or
Well,
how
kind
did
of. I
you
mean, so
actually do that?
a trail building process. If you have the right tools,
Uh-huh.
I mean, tools, really
Like a
do
bush hog or something
change the
like
game.
that?
Well, I mean, that would no. I mean, I'm sort of doing this with hand tools. So
Okay, okay. Yeah.
you start off with a leaf blower,
Right, okay.
and you sort of forge a path. You sort of weave a way through that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then, as necessary, you stop, put the leaf blower down, and either chainsaw down an obstruction in front of you, or pickaxe it out of the way, or or go around it or something. I mean, there
Yeah.
are lots of decisions to be made, but it's 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 been such a labor of love that that me and my partner, we use it every day, 3 times a day, walking that dog. And
Yeah.
the dog enjoys it, but I think we're equal in the enjoyment of it. It really is a little slice of paradise. I'm so very lucky.
Yeah, that's cool. Man, it sounds like you put some work into that pickaxing and chainsaw, and that's some heavy duty lifting there.
I have a tractor in my horizon. I'm really hoping that's what I'm gonna gift myself for retirement, is a proper tractor.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, I'll be very happy with a 25 horse tractor with a backhoe,
Yeah,
bucket loader, brush
yeah,
hog,
right on.
mid deck mower. Those
Oh
little
yeah,
little tools.
yeah, exactly. Makes your life easier.
It really does. I
Yeah,
mean, it
yeah,
really will keep me very busy, and there's just tons and tons to do on this place, and it's fun. I enjoy it.
right, right. So you brought up a guitar, and I wanted to let you know that I have been listening to Frampton for the last week. Because I knew that I was going to be talking to you and everything,
Right
and
on.
so I just thought I'd let you know that.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. I'm so happy about that.
I think I found a favorite song too. So it's "Breaking All the Rules." Is
Oh yeah.
I love that one. I probably listen to that one more than any of the other ones. That, and "As My Guitar Gently Weeps." That one's
Oh yeah. Gosh, yeah. What a great cover of that he does.
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. And I found I really like the live stuff too. Like his live albums are
Oh
some of my favorites that I found.
yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, his song catalog is really is a lot deeper than people give him credit for.
Right.
And that's the thing that's been great about, his induction to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He's really getting the due that he's long overdue
Right.
getting.
Right.
But more than anything is that people are starting to explore his song catalog a lot more, and getting deeper into it. I mean, there's some really extraordinary work on there. I mean, he's been plying his trade since he was like 14 years old or something like that. He's been a professional musician since 14 years old,
Wow.
and he's still fresh, and just, I mean, that there's just, you can listen to him play, and you're like, you instantly know it's him, because
Hmm.
he's got that style, and that he's iconic like that. Like, you can tell Carlos Santana,
Yeah.
you can tell Peter Frampton.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, no, I just I remember whenever we met in McAllister that we talked a lot about
Mm.
Frampton, and I know that
Yeah.
you've been to a lot of concerts, and I remember you telling me the story about, getting to be part of that special VIP
Oh,
when you went and
that
saw
was just
him.
the craziest thing. I mean, I thought I was getting punked. I mean, I just had no idea. I mean, I just no, that never happens. I mean, like, yeah, okay, I got super lucky with the Charlie Brown thing, but I
Right.
mean, to somehow get closer to my rock god idol was just extraordinary. Being, and again, in the right place at the right time. I mean, it was just such a weird coincidence. Wonderful stuff.
So, kind of switching back over to Charlie Brown just here for a minute. Do you
Mhm.
have a favorite moment from doing Charlie Brown?
Yeah, it's funny. And it's probably not what you're going to expect. I mean, of course, I knew, that what I was doing was very different,
Yeah. Yeah.
in doing this work because I mean, I would get picked up at school,
Yeah.
in a limousine and driven into the studio, and that was not something that was a normal thing. But um, I was trying really hard not to sort of make it a thing because I wanted more than anything, to have not have my friends, or what few friends I had,
Right.
not want to associate with me because I was different now somehow. You're very much into zebra mode. But
Yeah.
the moment that I realized that there was something, big going on was when I saw my name in the TV guide.
Yeah. Yeah.
So back in the day, a lot of people don't even understand this, but there used to be this book that people would buy every
Hmm.
week to find out what was on TV because there was no other way to know what was on
Exactly.
TV, right? And so, I mean, this book was like huge,
Yeah.
and it came out every week, and without fail, you would buy it to find out what you wanted to watch that week, and then there it was, Be My Valentine, Charlie Brown, Charlie Brown, Duncan Watson. I was just like, I was over the freaking moon. I just couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, this is something. This was something special.
That's cool. That's cool. What about when it comes to talking to fans and stuff at a convention? Do you have a favorite moment talking to a fan?
Well, I mean, what I hear a lot, and it's just so, I don't know, and the right word isn't humbling, but it really is extraordinary to meet people for whom, you know, all those years ago, I was a soundtrack that represented something really important in their life, something grounding. I mean, some of the stories that I hear that, that this was like the island of comfort. Peanuts represented that kind of thing to them when
Yeah.
everything else was going wrong in their life, that they had this thing that they could anchor themselves to. And it was, and they got to know my voice. I mean, so they're,
Right.
now all these years later, they're meeting me, and it's super cool. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's it's like this nice emotional, connection that, it comes full circle with, hey, here, I'm here for you.
Yeah. Yeah. It is really cool going to these. And so the convention that I met you at, I had my first person walk up and tell me that they were there to see me. I had never had that happen before.
Right.
And it is a very surreal moment to have somebody say that to you, and so I can, imagine you going all around the United States and having these people saying, you were a part of my childhood. So I found a few other things whenever I was doing some research here, and I wanted to ask you about it. It said that you were also an assistant director at one point. Can I talk about that? What were you an assistant director for?
Oh, I'm still an assistant director. I mean, are you talking about an IMDb thing
I
or?
am talking about IMDb said
Oh,
that.
well, then
Yeah. Did they
okay, 'cause
misinterpret it? Or are they talking about your
I,
job, right?
yeah, right. Well, that's
Okay.
just it. I mean, I think that somehow somebody's got a hold of something that isn't a thing
Okay. That's what I
and
thought, but I
assigned it to
wasn't
me.
sure.
Yeah, I don't, and that is stuck. That I've reached out to them and said, this is not me,
Yeah,
but it persists.
it does.
I don't know what that is. It's weird. It's a weird one. It's like a weird thing. It's like completely out of context,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I have no idea what it is.
Well, and I guess IMDb can be weird sometimes too, because I had a voice actor on here not too long ago, and he does movies now too. And they just in there says his signature look is a leather vest. And I asked him about that, and he's like, I have no idea where that came from. So,
Right. Well, I mean, I think that that sometimes it's like a wiki, thing. Like
yeah,
people, I think people can update them somehow if they're like members or something. But
right.
it's weird. Although I did from IMDb, I did find out something completely, just blew my mind away when I found out about it. But 2 years ago, I found out that I was the voice actor for Franklin in You're a Good Sport, Charlie Brown, and I'm a credited voice actor for it. So
Really?
Yeah, and I had no idea. But it turned out that what they would do sometimes, because I mean, like in Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown, there was a group sing along. She'll be coming around the mountain. We all sang it together,
Yeah.
and it was just a group sing, and they would use voice actors in other roles. I think Lucy, I think played Violet at one point, or Frida, or one of those smaller characters where they have
Right.
like maybe one line.
Yeah.
I think that's what happened in You're a Good Sport, is that Franklin had one line and they just decided to use my voice to record that. I didn't even know that was reading specifically for Franklin. I must have just been put something in front of my face and said, read this, and I did
Well, at that time,
it.
it's probably, the all the lines you're not going to remember what you said and everything. And like you said, they just here, do this. Okay. You know,
Well, yeah, except that I mean, when you're 11, 12 years old, you're very literal. And so
yeah.
one of the things that was kind of a funny thing that happened when we were recording was that the in the script, the character was supposed to sigh. So
Yeah.
I kept on going, sigh. And they're like, no, 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 you need to sigh. And I'm like, oh, okay, sigh. And they're like, no, no, we want you to go, ah, oh, okay. So I didn't know that that's what was called for the script. So I just kept reading it as sigh.
That's funny. And a lot of people actually do that ironically now too. So that's pretty funny.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's when you really want to emphasize it.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're going to kind of switch things up here just a little bit. And I want to talk about the thing that you are actually assistant director for, which brought about your book,
Mm,
which is Everyone's Trash. So, yes, Everyone's Trash. And so I kind of wanted to give you an opportunity to kind of talk about this book and tell me how you came about writing this.
cool. Well, this is the actual book. And so, oh, is that all fuzzy?
It is all fuzzy. Yeah.
Why is that? I wonder why that is.
Oh, because you got the blurred background on, I
I do?
believe. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't think I did that. Oh, how do I do that? Background, background. Oh, well, you know what? I'm never going to figure this out. I'm not much on technology, but
I tell you what I'll
there's a
do.
book.
I tell you what I'll do. I'll grab a photo of it and I'll put it on here to where people can see it right beside you.
Perfect,
So there we
perfect.
go. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I actually commissioned some cover art for it, which is kind of cool. I got a New Yorker cartoonist, John Klossner, to do some original artwork for it, and on the cover is my character, Recycling Sam, who
Yeah.
I'm using as sort of like the character throughout the book. But the book is mostly a memoir. It's called Everyone's Trash,
Hmm.
and basically it's the subtitle is One Man versus 1.6 billion pounds, which is the amount of waste that is generated in the United States every single day. Each man, woman, child in the country generates somewhere between 5 to 7 pounds of trash every single day individually, and it starts to add up into that 1.6 billion number. And what I'm fascinated about, and is that everything that's been discarded has some sort of a story.
Right.
It's not they're not always interesting, but I mean, a lot of them are really interesting, and we have a lot in common with regard to our trash. I mean, the U.S. is number one in the world when it comes to trash, and
Right.
we do some crazy things. People that work in the trash business are some really colorful characters, and I've had the benefit of a 33-year career working as the assistant director of public works for the city of Keene, New Hampshire.
Okay.
And the book is mostly about the small stories and the big stories, parts of my life and the stories that I have growing up, working as a recycling attendant in Tiburon, California, when I was 12 years old, all the way up to managing a small city solid waste program. And we've done some really interesting things, but I also posit in the book, it's education, but more entertainment. Somebody actually complimented me very highly the other day, saying that they felt like they were reading Bill Bryson's work. And he was the one who wrote A Walk in the Woods,
Yeah.
and such a number of other books that I cherish. But that was a very high compliment in the way that I tell a story.
Right.
And I think that my nephew really got after it. He said, "Uncle Duncan, you have managed to write a book about something that I have no interest in, but you've made it interesting." And that's high praise indeed. But
Definitely.
it's doing well in the marketplace, and it's getting well received critically. It's just won a New England Book Festival award. and it's gotten a starred review from the Library Journal, which is a fairly rare achievement. And we'll see how see how it does. I hope that people pick it up because it's I'm getting a lot of feedback that it's a really great read.
That's cool. That's cool. And from what I actually haven't got the chance to read the book all the way. I've read snippets from it, but um, it's different stories from different people. Correct? Is
Well, the commonality of the stories will generally involve me in some way
okay.
in interactions with people. I mean, like, I mean, as a small snippet, I got my job because a person was murdered up at the recycling center and transfer station.
Oh,
Yeah, and and so it's an unusual way to get a job.
right.
But
Yeah.
basically, the long I detail the story in the book, but the long, the Reader's Digest version is that there had been two people working up at the facility who had had some bad blood from a previous work situation, and one of them, drove the other one too far, and he came back with a 9 millimeter and shot him. Ended up not getting indicted because it was considered justifiable homicide. But the manager of the facility supposedly should have known that this tension was going on and been on top of it,
Hmm.
and therefore he was let go because of incompetence or whatever.
Yeah.
And that created a job opening for the city of Keens solid waste coordinator, and I was just happened to be finishing up graduate school at the exact same moment they were looking for a solid waste manager. And so I applied for the job and managed to get it. And I had no idea that any of this stuff had happened.
Right.
So, I was told by the public works director when I started the job, he said, Dunk, the measure of your success in your job is to make sure that nobody gets murdered at the dump. And I'm like, well, all right, 33 years later, so far, so good.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it was another jumping into this job. You said that you had just finished with going to school and everything. Did you have any previous experience when it came to working for a municipality or anything like that, or was that your first job into that?
First job. Well, I had spent I went to graduate school for 2 years, and during that time had done some work at the EPA, some work
Okay.
at the Massachusetts Recycling Coalition, some work at the Environmental Hazards Management Institute. So I
Okay.
had been, really sort of trying to get myself networked into that world because I was transitioning. I started off, my undergraduate degree was in hotel administration,
Okay.
and my family owned a restaurant. So I was in the hotel and restaurant business for a number of years. And I started working in a restaurant when I was 15 years old.
Yeah.
And then ended up in at Hyatt Hotels through their corporate training program with them for a couple of years, then back to managing my family's business, and then ultimately, in transition between working at my family's restaurant to going to grad school, I became a ski bum, and I was a ski bum for a year in Utah, which was the best year ever. Got 100
Yeah.
days on snow that year, and I still sometimes wonder, why it is that I came back. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was fabulous.
Do you still go ski?
Oh yeah, no, I've got a season pass.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yep, and they're about from my front door to the chairlift is exactly 45 minutes, and I know the mountain really, really
Wow.
well, so I know how to avoid the crowds. I know how to get my skiing in, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to attempting to get 100 days on snow again after I hang up my work spikes.
There you go. There you go. And you said restaurant. What kind of restaurant was it?
Oh gosh. Well, it's funny that because the restaurant was called Lou's Restaurant, and it was
Okay.
established in 1947. And I'm actually just started the beginnings of a book about Lou's Restaurant called Meet Me at Lou's
Okay.
as a potential second book coming out. So we'll have to see how that goes. But we'll get through the first one first. But I've written a couple of chapters of Meet Me at Lou's, but it was basically a Formica counter, swivel stool type of diner
Okay.
with the four-person booths, and we were the second owners after Lou from of Lou's Restaurant, and we had it for I think 17 years, and it's just an iconic diner in
Yeah.
the heart of downtown Hanover, New Hampshire, which is the home of Dartmouth College,
Hmm.
and it's just it's a piece of history. It's part of the fabric of both the college and the town, and it's just an iconic place, and it's full of I mean, it used to be a place where all the presidential candidates would, when they were stomping through New Hampshire would always stop at Lou's Restaurant to
Oh,
make
that's
their
cool.
pitch to the diners and stuff. And
Yeah.
and it served great food. That's why it stayed in business for so long and did as
Right.
well as it did.
Right. So I come from a family where my dad, he didn't have a restaurant, but he always did like concession trailers and stuff like that to where, he would make food and then sell it out of a trailer that he actually built.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Me, I don't like cooking because because I always got stuck in the trailer with my
Oh
dad
boy.
doing stuff. Now, are you one, because I know it goes two different ways with people, either they love it or they hate it. Are you one that likes to cook?
Oh, I love to cook.
Do
Yeah.
you?
Well, I mean, and really, honestly, the cooking thing for me is a control issue because
Okay.
if I'm cooking, then I dictate what we eat.
Right. Yeah.
And so when I was in my early married years and all through my married years, I can't remember but about a dozen times probably in the entire 27 years that I was married that I didn't cook every
Okay.
single meal.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, but I mean, but I also took pride in it. I mean, it was something that I was good at. It was really one of my artistic expressions,
Yeah.
cooking. And it wasn't like cooking like, crazy fancy, all the time. I think that sometimes it's harder to make the, sort of everyday food, have some zing and to it and make it interesting. And
Right.
I pride myself on that.
That's
I
cool.
make some I make some mean Mexican food.
I like Mexican food. Definitely.
Well, I lived there for almost 3 years and got to really know the cuisine from a young boy down there. But then I spent quite a bit of time in Mexico since I had lived there,
Okay.
traveling through there and sampling their amazing cuisine. So
Yeah.
something near and dear to me.
Yeah. So going back to the books, would you say that you've always wanted to be a writer, or was this something that you discovered that you enjoyed doing later?
Well, it's a twofold thing. So, number one is that I write a mean memo. I've been writing memos for a long time, and
Yeah.
I pride myself on my memo writing ability because one of my useful talents that I've provided the city of Keene is the ability to translate what the engineers are talking about
Yeah.
into language that other people can actually understand. And so that ability has served me very well. But even when I was the recycling coordinator alone and not doing other work for Public Works,
Mhm.
I also wrote a daily or a weekly newspaper column called Recycling in You, and I wrote about 250 of them,
Okay.
which turned out to be sort of the very rough outline of what started into the book of everyone's trash. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I was just basically using the column in the weekly newspaper to educate people about recycling and. Um, and I sort of honed my writing skills from there. And then I took a couple of writing classes in graduate school. I took one in particular, or actually two in particular, that Cy Montgomery was the teacher in one of them, and she is a New York Times bestselling author, Soul of the Octopus,
Okay.
um, and a number of other books of time and turtles. And she's a nature writer of outstanding caliber, and she was a great writing instructor and very encouraging. And then I actually took a class. I went to Antioch, New England University, and Antioch is very, very non-traditional from a higher education standpoint. But you really do get out of it what you put into it. But in this particular case, I took a class called storytelling,
Yeah.
and the instructor's name was Odds Bodkin, and I'm not sure that was his real name, but I'm going to go with it.
All right.
And he over the course of a weekend, in addition to teaching us the art of storytelling about how to construct a story and how to do a story arc, I mean it's all classic stuff, right? But he told the tale of the Odyssey during that entire weekend
Yeah.
using his guitar to accompany him in his narrative, and it was so mesmerizing. Telling a good story is such a great art, and there's this art and a science to it. And I've always fancied myself a pretty decent storyteller.
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to write this book, is that I wanted to take the stories that I remember so well and put them down on paper because they're good stories.
Right. So, if you were going to pitch your book to my listeners to try to entice them to buy a copy of this, what would you say to them right now?
If you like the show Parks and Rec, my job mirrors that, but only from the public works standpoint. And so those are the types of stories that I'm trying to tell, is sort of like the absurdity of some of the things, or the craziness, or the rich characters that inhabit all of our lives. I mean, we have a lot of these things in common, and I'm just taking these stories that are common to a lot of people and trying to make them relatable using the characters that have come through my life.
Yeah.
But there's definitely, I mean, I've heard from many, many readers so far that there's a lot of LOL moments in the book, which is really, for me, hitting my mark if I can get that.
Yeah.
But there's also, there's another side to it. There's a side that sort of says, hey, we got a problem. There's this thing, whether you believe it or not, doesn't matter. It's called climate change, and solid waste contributes somewhere between 10 and 15% of the greenhouse gases that are associated with climate
Wow.
change. And and it's also a very big business, and there's some serious players in it, a lot of money,
Yeah.
a lot of jobs. There's a lot at stake,
Right.
and what we're doing right now, compromising our future by not investing in an infrastructure system that can better handle our waste.
Right.
I argue that we can and should do better.
Yeah. Yeah. So I found one other thing out about you that I wanted to ask you about, and you're a yoga instructor, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
How did you get into that? You're into a little bit of everything here.
Well, I mean, the origin story is a little bit strange. I had a really, really, really bad sciatic nerve issue in my back. And
Hmm.
if any of you out there have ever had a sciatic nerve issue to the point where it was crippling, I'm so sorry for you because I know what that's like. It's an awful,
Yeah.
awful thing. But I remember when I was convalescing, those P90X commercials used to come on the TV, and I'd be like, when I get better, I'm gonna do that, And sure as heck, I ordered the stuff when I was convalescing
Yeah.
from that sciatic thing, and when I felt better enough to work out, I started doing the workout. I did the whole program.
Yeah.
But the thing that I stayed with after the 12 weeks or whatever it was that I did the entire P90X program, the thing I stayed with was the yoga, because it was the most challenging thing, unexpectedly. I mean, it was just so athletically challenging, both balance and strength. I never would have thought that a body weight type of workout system would be enough,
Yeah.
that I would have to have weights with it or something. And
Right.
I mean, I back a long time ago, I had a very, very good friend who was on the US ski team, and this guy was an amazing athlete. And he went to the Olympics in Calgary, and I remember him years later telling me that the most athletically challenging thing that he had ever done was yoga. And this is a guy who had gone to the Olympics in skiing. I mean,
Yeah.
and that was the most athletically challenging. And so that really got my attention. But when I started learning how to do the P90X routine, I started to look for more, like what else could I do? And at that time, I was a dance dad, and I was literally driving my older daughter down to dance school 6 or 7 days a week,
Wow.
30 minutes south to Brattleboro, Vermont, and she's since become a professional dancer. So I guess, it was
It was
worth
worth it.
worth the
Yeah.
effort. Yeah, totally. I mean, she's an amazing athlete in her own right, and
That's
and a
awesome.
really great performer. But yeah, so I basically, had hours that I would spend down there every single day, and just below the dance studio was a yoga studio. So I was like, I just start popping into this thing, and when I started getting these yoga lessons by a fantastic teacher in Brattleboro named Kristen Cassidy,
Mhm.
and she became like a mentor, and eventually I was like, I think I can do this myself. I think I have a voice for this. Not, not like a Charlie Brown voice.
Right.
I meant
Yeah.
I have an aptitude for this. I can see how I want to take this and where I want to go with it. So I ended up getting my teacher certification through a place called Amazing Yoga in Pittsburgh, PA.
Okay.
Did my training 100 hours in one spot and 100 hours in another. So I got my 200-hour certification. And then I started working for a studio in Keene, New Hampshire, about, oh gosh, it's going to be about 12 years now. And I've taught hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of classes since then. And I prefer to teach hot yoga.
Yeah.
But I'll teach, but I do a regular vinyasa flow type of yoga.
Mhm.
That, I would consider it to be athletically challenging. However, I believe it's also accessible to anybody because, what really makes the yoga pose more challenging than another thing is sort of the depth of the pose. So,
Yeah.
Eventually, as you work your way through a deepening practice and a deepening pose structure, that just takes some time, and that's why they call it a practice.
Right. Right. So I know nothing really about yoga. So when you say hot yoga and compare it to other things, what does that actually mean?
Okay, well then in hot yoga, in a brief way, there's a style called Bikram, which is controversial these days because Bikram turns out to be kind of a predator of people, and he's on the run, and he lives in Mexico, but he's got this
Gotcha. Okay.
26 pose sequence that he's like patented, and he's just it's I don't it's just there's lots of people who love it. It's not my thing.
Yeah.
It's also taught usually in a 106-degree room, and I just
Oof.
think that's too hot. I don't
Yeah.
like I like my room to be somewhere between 92 and 94, somewhere around there. So it's enough to get you good and sweaty, but
Okay.
not so much that you're gasping for air.
So you
But I mean,
actually make the room hotter then for hot
yeah,
yoga. It's
yeah, yeah,
literally that. Okay.
yeah, yes, exactly right.
Okay.
There are heaters, radiant heaters usually in them, and it's not. I mean, it's not like I don't. I can teach a class without it. It's just I'm used to teaching a hot yoga class, is what I'm saying.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I do about a 75-minute flow. And it's really just about staying in your own head and your own body and doing the movements that I'm sort of leading you through.
Yeah.
But that's your time, and I want people to sort of leave their cares behind when they hit the door, and have 90 minutes of time for themselves,
Right.
and then go back to their grind. But
Yeah.
this is, I think, really healthy for both body and mind.
Right. Right. So we're kind of
But
coming up.
if you don't know anything about yoga, what's stopping you?
I I don't know. I haven't. Nothing that against it. It's just it hasn't ever. I've never been. It's nothing. I can't think of a reason why I haven't went, but at the same time I really haven't. I've been lucky. I haven't had any injuries like how you said you got into it because of having your sciatic nerve. Luckily, I haven't had anything like that happen, so nothing's really led me to that at this point, I guess.
Well, maybe this conversation is what leads you there. I would encourage you to at least explore it, because not only is it challenging, but the thing is, I don't love yoga. I
Yeah.
love what it does for me.
Right.
And that's sort of where I'm a convert of it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's still a grind to get to the mat. I mean, that's the hardest part about yoga in the first place, is just finding your way to get to the mat. Once you're there, then
Yeah.
the magic can unfold. And I will tell you, I can offer this guarantee with complete sincerity, is that if you stay with it for a little while, you'll feel the magic.
All right. Maybe I'll give it a shot.
You
um,
never know. Yep.
I'm a big wrestling fan, and I think we talked about this last time
That
when we
Diamond
met.
Dave guy.
Yeah,
Yes.
Diamond Dallas
Yes.
Page and all of his stuff. And I know that
Yes.
it's helped other people to gain
Yeah.
mobility back and things like that. So
Yep.
I mean, maybe I'll try something out. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe, I mean, hopefully it doesn't have to be, through some,
Right,
reason that, you've had to be brought to it. I mean,
right,
it just has added a huge value to my life, and I would love that for other people as well.
awesome, awesome. So we're kind of coming up close to a close here. I just have a couple more questions for you before we get you off
Right
of
on.
here.
Cool.
Do you have anything coming up that maybe you want to talk about?
Let's see. Um, I'm going to be in Dallas in March, at the AllCon Dallas. I'm really looking forward to that, because that'll be actually a repeat venture for me down there, 4 days in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
And love meeting I was actually lived in DFW area for a year when I was working for Hyatt Hotels.
Okay.
So it's a little bit of a homecoming for me. So I like going to that area. And then I'm going to be going to that Syracuse one at the end of March. But yeah, other than that, mostly what I'm doing is doing a lot of tap dancing, doing a book events. So I would love for people to check it out. Check out a copy of the book, and maybe it's available at your library, or maybe you feel like you want to have that book in your collection. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good read.
Awesome. Awesome. And if people want to follow you, how can they do that?
Oh gosh, I'm just on social media like anybody. Usually I've got probably something Charlie Brown associated, well, either on a profile pic or something like that. But I'm easily accessible either through Facebook or Instagram.
Okay.
That's generally the best way to reach me.
All right. And do you have any final thoughts before I get you off of here?
Final thoughts? Well, I hope our paths cross again, Jared. It's a real pleasure to talk with you, and to have met you and Nick in Oklahoma was a real highlight of my trip there.
Oh yeah, we had a lot of fun. We got to have some gelato and got to go out to dinner and close the restaurant out. That was a blast, man. I had a great time.
It was
Yeah,
super fun. I had a
it was.
really, and that's why I love doing this stuff, is because I get to have experiences and meet new people. Wish you guys so much success. You guys are really a creative duo, and I like the energy and the vibe that you're putting into what you're doing. It's good stuff.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate you doing this, taking time out to, come on here and talk with me and everything. I did want to let you know my kids finally got to watch Be My Valentine, Charlie Brown. They watched it with me today. I guess they had never seen it. I thought that they had, and they loved it. So we're going to be watching more stuff like that.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, one quick thing. The soundtrack for Be My Valentine, Charlie Brown is being released for the first time. It just got released last week, and it's now
Okay.
available. It's available on LP, but you can listen to it on Spotify. But um, it's phenomenal. It's Vince Guaraldi music,
Yeah.
but if you remember the soundtrack from Be My Valentine, having that on an album, I think it's a good buy.
Oh yeah, awesome. I will definitely be looking into that. I love listening to music, all kinds, finding new music. It's kind of another passion that I have here. So I will
Cool.
definitely looking into that. All
Right
right,
on,
man.
Jared.
Well, I'm going to talk to you for a few more minutes after we end this recording and everything, but we're going to say bye here for now. And again, thank you so much for coming on here and talking to me.
You're welcome, brother.
Have a good one.
Thanks.
If You Give a Dad a Podcast.